Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here at the International Conference of Men's Issues. I had intended to begin this presentation with the cruelty of infant genital mutilation in the United States. But sadly, last July, our beloved friend, Mark Angelucci, was gunned down, assassinated, executed at his front door in Southern California. And I want to talk about him for a moment before I get into my presentation itself. And actually, he's part of the presentation in a sense, because Mark Angelucci was a friend of mine. I protested with him in Southern California several times. I stayed at his house. He gave me his own copy of The Myth of Male Power by Warren Farrell. He insisted I take it. And of course, I read it and enjoyed it greatly. When we stayed at his house, he treated us like kings. There were 4 or 5 of us. We had been on a tour in Southern California. He came on and protested with us. Mark was among the 7 men who first wore bloodstained suits in the United States at the October 2012 AAP convention protest. 7 of us put on bloodstained suits to protest what American pediatricians are doing to American boys, newborn American boys. So Mark understood this issue. He understood that it was wrong. He understood that it was cruel and violent, and he put his body on the front lines with Bloodstained Men. I remember one particular protest at UCLA. I believe it was on Westwood Boulevard, and Mark was with us for a few hours, then he had to leave. He had a court hearing or something of that nature, but he left, and I wish I'd had my camera ready, because about 2-3 minutes later, he came by on his motorcycle wearing his Bloodstained Men suit on his way home to get prepared for his legal day. But I'll never forget the sight of Mark Angelucci on a motorcycle in a Bloodstained Men suit. It was just wonderful, and he was a wonderful man. It's so cruel that he was gunned down in the prime of his life. His work, I'm certain, was only just beginning for him and for all of us. A great advocate for men's rights and for the rights of children was wiped out by a coward with a gun. And I just extend my deepest condolences to all the people, all his friends and relatives, all the people who knew him and loved him and knew of his work. Just a terrible, terrible human tragedy to lose Mark Angelucci. In 2012, in fact, he was one of the 7 men who put on the bloodstained suit in New Orleans. That was in late October. I came home to California here, and about 2 weeks later, I founded Bloodstained Men and Their Friends, which is a Facebook group, a Facebook page. And several years later, we became a nonprofit, and we protest circumcision from coast to coast. We've been sidelined during this COVID crisis, but we're now putting up billboards. Mark Angelucci would be on our Facebook page just about every day. We do a lot on our Facebook page, Bloodstained Men and Their Friends, and he followed us closely. He would like numerous posts almost every day, and I always enjoyed seeing his presence there, and it was just a very, very bitter blow to lose him. So my presentation is dedicated to Mark Angelucci. May he live in our memories forever. And this is the peril of anyone who speaks out for human rights. Human rights advocates around the world throughout history have suffered the ultimate penalty for doing their work. And I view it that way. I know that this was a madman that gunned Mark down, but he paid the penalty. He paid the penalty. He's a martyr for the human rights of American boys, American men, fighting to apply the law equally to men as well as to women. So do I have to prove to you that it's cruel to strap down a baby and cut off part of their penis? What sort of insane world do we live in where I have to prove that it's cruel to cut off part of a man's penis when he's a baby, when he's a newborn, when he's just come into the world? I know I don't have to prove it to any of you, but why do we have to prove it to the world? Why does male circumcision, infant male circumcision, child male circumcision, why does it get a pass around the world? We've seen the brave Danish people recently trying to protect all their children from genital mutilation. No one will argue in favor of girl circumcision anymore. Although the AAP did try to reinstitute it in 2010, they quickly backed away from that effort. The American Academy of Pediatrics is a corrupt institution of unethical pediatricians who have put their signature to a paper, to a document in 2012 that claimed there were medical benefits. How dare they? Medical benefits to newborn infant circumcision. How dare they? How dare they? Like I said, they tried the same thing with girls in 2010, but got slapped down for it. But no, in 2012, when they published their statement that infant circumcision might have benefits, well, the national media lapped it up like a bunch of puppets. Headlines: National American Academy of Pediatrics says the benefits of male circumcision outweigh the risks. The irony is that not once did they acknowledge what the risks are. They don't know the risks, what the complication rate is. They don't know. They don't want to know. So we are faced with a corrupt institution of unethical pediatricians who have gone on record that there are health advantages to infant circumcision. All of that has been debunked. Go to the website doctorsopposingcircumcision.org and you will see abundant evidence of the cruelty, the damage, the trauma, the worthlessness of male infant circumcision. The foreskin is the motherboard of the penis. It is the center of the feelings, of the sensations, the gliding action of the penis. And historically, the people who cut the foreskin off of their children acknowledged that it was to diminish their ability to enjoy and engage in sexual activity. The glands of the penis is an internal organ, just like the clitoris in a woman. The clitoris is covered by a hood, which is the prepuce of the clitoris, equivalent to the prepuce of the penis, which is the foreskin. Foreskin does not adequately describe the unique magical qualities of that anatomical structure of the human penis. When doctors so cavalierly chop it off of babies, they are depriving that future man of at least 50% of the sensations, the pleasurable sensations of his penis. And some experts say that it's 80 and even 90%. Of course, sex still feels good. To a starving man, any food tastes good. And that's why circumcised sex still works. Yeah, it works. But that's not the case. That's not the question. The question is, does society have a right to cut that off of a man when he can't fight back, when he's helpless? Society has claimed that right, but it's an illicit right. It's no right at all. It's an abuse of power. It is an abuse of power, just the way it's an abuse of power to do it to a female child. So, in my capacity as founder of Bloodstained Men, we have been going around the country touring. We've been to several hundred cities over the last 8 years and received an incredible response from the American public, and it's growing. There is one thing that a circumcised man can do to improve his situation. If you go to the website National Organization of Restoring Men, NORM, NORM.org, you will enter a world where men are healing themselves from circumcision, not just psychologically and emotionally and mentally, but physically. You actually can grow new skin on your penis. It will never be the same as the original foreskin, but it is a near miracle. I have been doing it myself for a year, and it's quite remarkable, quite remarkable. I had tried to restore my foreskin back in the 1980s with the early methods that I saw then. Someone mailed it to me, and it was just awkward, unwieldy, and painful using tape. And so that disillusioned me from attempting it again until last year, when even though a lot of my friends I knew were restoring and had restored successfully, and I've continued to post in favor of it, but in Oklahoma, an Oklahoma City man came to our protest, and this was last year. And he said, "Have you tried restoring?" I said, "No, I don't really have enough to work with." And he said, "Well, can you take the skin that remains and pucker it over the glands of your penis?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, then you can restore." And he mentioned manual tugging. So when I got home from the university tour, I tried it, and it was amazing. I saw results within several days. And so I ordered, I continued to, and I only had to do it, 10 or 20 minutes a day. It just is, like I said, it's a near miracle that you actually can. And now, almost 1 year of restoring my foreskin, I have complete coverage of my glands. It has afforded me quite a bit of physical comfort, No longer do I suffer the stinging, exposed sensations that I had suffered all my life from my glands. And you will see the other benefits of, they are all real, and it's not hard. It's not hard. But it took a man in Oklahoma City, and interestingly enough, 3 years earlier, he had passed our protest in Oklahoma City, and that's when he started looking into it, and he started restoring. So a man who had seen our protest in Kansas, in Oklahoma City, actually enlightened me about foreskin restoration, and so I am now proudly restoring my foreskin and not looking back. So go to norm.org, NORM.org, National Organization of Restoring Men. If I can do it at age 72, you can do it, no matter what your age is. I recently asked a friend of mine, Ted Brown, in Oklahoma, in preparing for this speech, I said, Ted, even men who have suffered a profound loss of penile skin, can they successfully restore? And he wrote me back. He said, absolutely yes. So men, you can restore, and it really becomes like brushing your teeth or clipping your nails or any of the numerous other things you do on a daily basis. It's not hard. I've been doing it for a year, so trust me. And you'll figure out there's all kinds of online forums for men. You will quickly discover there's a whole community of restoring men that will give you advice and assistance and support. And it is very, very doable. And I encourage you to do it. You will not regret it. And you see result. I was amazed. I was amazed. There is a group of mostly moms, and they're out of Texas. They formed a nonprofit called Your Whole Baby. And these American moms are just remarkable women. They are so filled with love and compassion and social responsibility to help solve this problem for their sons, for our nation's sons, and for the men. Many of them have circumcised husbands. So my hat's off to Your Whole Baby, and thank you for what you are doing to reach American parents. This is an educational effort, ladies and gentlemen, to reach American parents with the news that you do not have to cut off part of your baby's penis. They don't do it in the rest of the world. Europeans, secular Europeans, I mean, there are a few religious cultures in Europe that do circumcise their children, but they don't claim, and they've never claimed, that it was medicine. It took the perversity and depravity and corruption of American pediatricians to claim that circumcision was more than just an ancient penis sacrifice, to claim that it was a health measure. These cruel pediatricians began circumcision in the United States about 130, 140 years ago. Even then, they did not claim it was medicine. It was to punish adolescent boys for being caught masturbating. And then it segued into a preventive measure to stop boys from masturbating. The foreskin is a movable sleeve of skin that facilitates easy sex, smooth sex, and masturbation. And that's why they cut it off. They made no bones about it. It was only in the 20th century when it became embarrassing that it was so clearly a hatred of sex, a sex-hating sacrifice of your son's penis, that it became embarrassing. They had to concoct some preposterous medical justifications for it. And there are none. Even if there were, which there aren't, but even if there were, you don't take that away from a man. If circumcision made any sense, they'd let men choose it for themselves. They don't. Men around the world are intact and they are happy they are. And they would never consider going in and getting part of their penis cut off any more than they'd go in and ask the doctor to poke out one of their eyes or cut off one of their arms or their legs. We don't cut off healthy body parts. They serve a function. God and nature created our bodies perfect, with rare exceptions. But in general, 99% of us are born with normal, perfect bodies. Nature knows what it's doing when it comes to sexual reproduction. So who's to blame for circumcision? Who's to blame? We protest, we Bloodstained Men and our friends, other intactivists, we protest at medical conventions. And I can't tell you how many times these OBGYNs and these pediatricians tell us, claim that they don't want to do circumcisions, that parents demand it or ask for it. Number one, what other body part would American physicians agree to cut off if parents demanded it? None. So American pediatricians, American OBGYNs, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouths. They are just absolutely corrupt. They like to blame parents, but they make a lot of money from it, and they don't want to acknowledge that they've been doing something destructive all these years. So circumcision goes on out of apathy. But why do parents ask for it? Sadly, one of the evil seeds that circumcision plants in a man, this is your sex organ. It matters to you. I don't have to explain why it matters to you. But this is the sex organ that you've lived with all your life. And to be told that you're missing the best part of it, to be told that you wouldn't need lube if you had a foreskin, to be told that when a woman complains about painful sex, that's because you are circumcised. Those are unacceptable truths for a man to hear. So when the shock wears off, many men, I can't say most men, we don't have numbers. We don't have any kind of numbers, but we know that there's a revolution going on out there in the United States with awareness on this issue. But when the shock wears off, many men will open their mind and look at the evidence, the European condemnation of American circumcision. You can go to bloodstainedmen.com and look under our resources. We have the European condemnation on our website. So an unknown number of men will open their minds. It can take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, months, years. Sometimes it takes years for a man to finally come to the realization that, yes, I was harmed, and I don't want that. I don't want to let that happen to my son. It matters. I want my son to live with a normal penis, just as men and women have done throughout human history, living with normal genitals. We don't need to cut part of them off. Other men, they will go to their grave claiming that they are happy that part of their penis was cut off. And I have to say that is manhood at its lowest, at its most abject. That's a broken man. A man who says that he's glad he was circumcised is a broken man. I've said that to their faces, and I'm saying it to you. If you are glad that you were circumcised, you are a broken man. I don't know how to get through to every man on this issue, and especially men, fathers who circumcise their sons, and in some cases their grandsons are circumcised. This is a national crisis. It's a national crisis. We owe it. We owe it to our sons, to our grandsons, to stop this nightmare. It's not right. It's not fair. So do I have to convince you that it's cruel to cut off part of a boy's penis? When I was born, I was born in 1947. The Circumcision Restraint Board had not yet been invented. Some of you may or may not know what that is, but it's a little plastic board with a indentation for a human body, for a little human body, and they lay the baby in there, and they prop up his penis and strap him down. They strap him down hand and foot. When I was born, that was invented in 1955. So in 1947, when I was born, that hadn't been invented. So they held me down on a table. A nurse stood at my head, and they did this on my first day of life. And it's still done to many children, many boys on the first day of life. They strap you down. Well, in my case, the nurse stood at my head, leaned over me with her hands, pinned my legs, spread my legs and pinned them, and with her elbows held down my arms. So I was 7 pounds. What am I going to do? And then the doctor stood at the other end of the table and between my legs and inflicted the most excruciating pain that I have ever suffered in life and that any man will ever suffer in his life. There are a few pediatricians who claim they use lidocaine. They inject the baby's penis with lidocaine. Most don't, because lidocaine requires the doctor to wait about 20 to 25 minutes, and circumcision is money for them. They can do 4 or 5 circumcisions an hour for anywhere from $300 to $500 each, and that's an extra $100,000 a year for these guys, for these pediatricians, OBGYNs, and they've said it, they've admitted it, they've acknowledged it, that they like the money they get from circumcision. So there's even the ones who claim they use pain relief for the baby. They don't. It doesn't work. There's a famous video on YouTube. It's a doctor circumcising his own son. He injects the baby's penis with lidocaine, and that first injection, when that needle goes into the base of the baby's penis, the baby lets out the most heart-rending scream, shriek, and it never stops. The lidocaine did not work. That's why doctors don't use it. It doesn't work. It's not consistent, and it can be dangerous. So the nurse held me down while the doctor did that. And when they brought me back to my mother, I was still just hours old. I refused to eat. I would not take any sustenance, any nourishment, no bottle. I don't believe she offered me her breast. In 1947, mothers were not encouraged to breastfeed. But I refused to eat for 3 days, which is not uncommon for boys in that pain. The pain of circumcision isn't just the surgery itself when they amputate the foreskin. It's the 4, 5, 6, 7 days after that when a yellow scab forms on your penis, on the glands of your penis. When a yellow scab forms where there should have been a mucous membrane protected by the foreskin, you actually get a yellow scab on the head of your penis. And it's just so sick. But the pain of urinating on that open wound for a week or two before that yellow scab finally hardens and becomes what the penis you will live with. The pain, the raw, burning pain. These babies shriek. It's just as painful as the circumcision itself, or when the mother goes to change the diaper, or the dad goes to change the diaper and has to change the dressing on the head of the penis. It just, the pain, the suffering these boys go through. What does it do to a nation when an entire nation of men has been traumatized in their genitals at birth? Shame on American psychologists and sociologists for not studying this phenomenon. A nation of wounded men. And the wound is hidden from us. How many of you even knew you were circumcised as boys? You were incredibly lucky if you did find out young, but most of us didn't. Or if you did, like when I was in, I think I heard something about it in grade school, on the playground, 5th or 6th grade. Someone said, why do they circumcise boys? And someone else said, well, they say it's cleaner. You know, that's our sex education in the United States. It's just shocking, disgusting. So these boys go through torture. If it was just one boy or 10 boys or 100 boys, we'd say, well, the social effect is minimal. This is an entire nation. Furthermore, there's strong evidence, and it makes sense, that we carry that trauma. We carry that trauma in our bones for life. That trauma goes right to the bottom of our soul. The distinguished psychologist in Boston, Dr. Ronald Goldman, has written a book called Circumcision, the Hidden Trauma. And you can, I'll show you his website here. I think that's backwards. Circumcision Resource Center. Go to circumcision.org. And Dr. Goldman has a wealth of resources that will help educate you and educate your friends. Ultimately, this struggle to stop the genital mutilation of our sons is a struggle to reach parents. Doctors aren't going to do it. American pediatricians and OBGYNs made their bed, and they're not going to back down. They're not going to admit that they've been damaging our boys, our nation's sons, for 100 years. They're just not going to do it. So it's up to parents. It's up to parents to do it. So I've given you some resources. I've told you what you can do. I changed my name. That was part of my healing. Part of my healing was to change my name. I did that in 1986. And it worked for me, because I did not view and do not view what was done to me as medicine. I was the victim of an ancient penis sacrifice. The same penis sacrifice that boys and girls on the clitoris have suffered throughout human history in some cultures. I was not going to accept a fake explanation that what was done to me was medicine, because it wasn't. What was done to me was meant to injure me. It was meant to break me. It was meant to make me a servant of the state. And I rejected. So I underwent a spiritual transformation by changing my name. I rejected the birth name, my circumcision name. Circumcision and naming go together in most cultures that practice it. So I rejected my birth name as my circumcision name. So that was a large part of my spiritual healing. And now restoring my foreskin, I'm getting additional healing in the form of a wonderful, wonderful experience of covering my glands. So I can't emphasize enough to you how much I encourage you to give foreskin restoration a chance, because I think that a lot more men would be open to this information if they saw a way out. So many, when we're on the front lines, we give them our information and they say, well, it's too late for me. And we do tell them, well, it's not too late for your sons, it's not too late for your grandsons, and it's not too late to restore your foreskin. So all of those can work. I should make one final note, which is that Europeans in our movement, when they first hear that circumcised sex often requires lubrication, they begin to understand the jokes, the lube jokes that they saw watching American programs in Europe. The lube on the night table by the bed in the couple's bedroom. Because Europeans don't need lube. They don't use lube. You don't need lube when you have a foreskin. Circumcision has not only injured men, it has injured the women and the partners that we love. It makes sex dry and painful. Not always, but we have seen ample testimony that that's the norm, that circumcised sex is dry and painful. And if you follow social media at all, you've seen numerous, hundreds and hundreds of women testify to that effect. So this curse upon humanity, this genital mutilation of boys, has injured not only men, but women as well. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Angelucci, this is in your honor. You were a good man. You were an honest man, a decent man. You did not deserve what happened to you. And thank you, Mark Angelucci, for being one of the 7 men who first put on the bloodstained suit in New Orleans in 2012. We are going to end the genital mutilation of children in the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. That is the job before us. We are the people who will end this curse upon our children and our grandchildren. We will end it so that they don't have to. So that they don't have to say, why did this happen to me? Why didn't my parents, why didn't my grandparents stop it? We are going to end it, and we will. It's already happening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me here at the International Conference on Men's Issue. It was an honor to speak to you this afternoon.